There's a strange moment that happens to some people that's hard to explain unless you've lived it. You wake up. Nothing is technically wrong. Your life is functioning. The day ahead isn't dramatic. And yet, before anything even happens, you already feel full. Not tired in the way sleep fixes. Not anxious in the way panic looks. Just full. Like the volume of the world is already turned up before you've touched a single knob. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by a day that looked simple on paper, this isn't weakness. And it isn't sensitivity in the way people usually mean it. It's something else entirely. Most people assume overwhelm comes from chaos, from too much noise, too many responsibilities, too many problems. But for some minds, overwhelm doesn't come from disorder. It comes from order, from noticing everything that is happening at once. The tone shifts, the micro expressions, the background noise, the emotional undercurrent, the unspoken expectations, the future implications of present choices, all before lunch. And when people say, it's not that deep, what they really mean is, I don't see what you see. Because for you, it is that deep. Not because you're dramatic, but because your brain is doing more work than most people realize. Here's the part no one explains. Overwhelm isn't always the result of stress. Sometimes it's the result of perception. Research shows that highly sensitive people, many of whom are INFJs, have more active mirror neurons and a heightened amygdala response. That means your brain doesn't just observe, it absorbs. That too much feeling isn't imaginary. It's measurable. Your nervous system isn't reacting to danger. It's reacting to volume. And volume doesn't have to be loud to be intense. Imagine standing in a room where 10 conversations are happening at once. Most people can tune 9 of them out. But some brains don't filter first. They receive first. They take everything in, then decide what matters. That difference alone changes how the world feels. This is why ordinary environments can feel heavy. Why errands feel draining. Why casual plans sometimes require recovery time. Why you need silence after stimulation, not because you hate people, but because your system is recalibrating. And yet, if you've tried to explain this, you've probably been told some version of the same thing. You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. You need to relax. You're making it harder than it needs to be. But what if you're not making it harder? What if your brain is simply doing more? Here's the part that almost no one tells you, especially if you're high functioning. You've probably trained yourself to ignore these signals. You smile through the tension. You nod through the noise. But your system still keeps the score. You might not collapse, but you will compress. And compressed people don't break loud. They go quiet. Until one day they can't explain why everything feels like too much. Let's slow this down. Because the experience you're having isn't imaginary. And it isn't a personality flaw. It's neurological. The human brain is constantly filtering information, but not all brains filter the same way. Some brains are optimized for speed and action. Others are optimized for pattern detection. Pattern detection requires context. Context requires comparison. Comparison requires memory. So instead of reacting only to what's happening now, your brain is quietly referencing everything that has happened before and everything that might happen next. Not as worry, as simulation. That means your system is running multiple background processes at once. And background processes still use energy. This is why overwhelm can appear without obvious cause. Nothing dramatic has to happen for your system to feel taxed. A crowded store, a long conversation, a busy interface, a room full of subtle emotional cues. Your brain is working hard. Here's something most people don't realize. The brain uses about 20% of the body's energy at rest. That's one organ using 1/5 of your fuel before you even move. Now add deep perception, emotional monitoring, future projection, and social awareness. That energy demand spikes. And energy demand produces physical signals. Tension, fatigue, irritability, the need to withdraw, the need for quiet. This is not avoidance. It's regulation. The problem is, our culture doesn't recognize internal workload. We only respect visible effort. If you're not running, lifting, building, producing, or talking, it doesn't count as work. But internal processing is work. And when it goes unacknowledged, people turn that exhaustion inward and call it failure. They think something is wrong with them, so they try to push through. They stay longer. They talk more. They override the signal until the body finds another way to be heard. Overwhelm isn't your system breaking. It's your system communicating. And the message is simple. There is too much input and not enough space. Now here's the part that reframes everything. Being easily overwhelmed by ordinary life does not mean you are fragile. It often means your nervous system is finely tuned. A finely tuned instrument doesn't tolerate distortion well. It hears everything, which is why it needs periods of quiet to stay accurate. This is why solitude doesn't feel lonely to you. It feels corrective. It restores clarity. It gives your system room to settle. And when it does, you don't become dull or detached. You become sharp again. This is also why environments matter more to you than motivation. You can't push mindset your way out of sensory overload. You can't productivity hack your way out of nervous system saturation. What you need isn't discipline. It's design. Designing days with margin. Designing spaces with softness. Designing interactions with intention. Not because you can't handle life, but because you experience it fully. And fullness requires space. Here's what I want you to hear clearly. If ordinary life feels overwhelming to you, it doesn't mean you're behind. It means your system processes depth where others skim surface. That comes with cost. But it also comes with clarity, empathy, insight, and meaning. The work is not to harden yourself. The work is to understand how you're built. Because once you stop fighting your perception, overwhelm stops being a threat. It becomes information. And information can be managed. If this resonates, you're not alone. And if you want to go deeper into understanding how the brain processes intensity, how to reduce internal load without dulling your awareness, and how to externalize thinking so everything doesn't live in your head, that's exactly what we explore inside the membership. This isn't about becoming less. It's about carrying less inside. In the next video, we'll talk about why your mind never fully shuts off and why that constant internal motion isn't anxiety, but something much more precise. Until then, remember this. Overwhelm is not a verdict. It's feedback. And once you learn how to read it, life stops feeling so loud. This isn't laziness. It's emotional architecture. You're not escaping the world. You're creating scaffolding to survive it. And when you build it right, you don't just cope. You create clarity, boundaries, and brilliance. If this video made you feel seen, good. That wasn't an accident. Your brain isn't broken. It's brilliant, just running a different operating system. Now I want to hear from you. What's one ordinary thing that feels overwhelming in your daily life, and how do you manage it or not? Drop it in the comments. We're building a space where sensitivity isn't weakness, it's a signal. And if this hit home, subscribe for more content like this. We don't just explain the brain, we translate it for people like you.